Hi, I've seen so many god-awful opinions thrown out when it comes to synergies, so I want to make two videos. One that breaks down every synergy and why they're either bad or good, and this one, which is just going over the ones that actually matter. So Cleansing Napalm is the best generic synergy in the game if you don't want to build for anything specific. You just want what is the best. This is it right here, and let me explain why. 15% damage is the best generic perk you can get on a synergy. Napalm and this effect in here is worded super poorly. The way this effect actually works is it puts bio on the target, which is 85% armor plate damage. Armor plates reduce damage by 10% per plate, so removing or bypassing those is paramount. Fire increases damage to HP for 50%. Everything is HP. Most everything in the game is only HP. So the two biggest hurdles to dealing damage, this helps with. Secondly, unlike every other cooldown in the entire game, this is per target. So if you hit 5 guys with this, it will apply this effect to all 5 of them, which means you never really have to worry about this not being active. This is 30% damage reduction, which just straight up invalidates all of the perks that do this, and those perks weren't really good to begin with. And this is completely worthless. You don't care about this at all. Bloodthirst, this is another thing that happens, and this is something you've got to understand when you're looking for knowledge on this game. This game's very old with a player base that's been playing it for fucking eons, so there's a lot of situations like this. Adaptive Augment is literally just worse Bloodthirst. This is very easy to prove once I explain it to you, but there's a lot of people that will tell you they prefer this because they spend a lot more time with this. You kind of got to realize there's a lot of people that they don't, you know how dealing with set in their ways older people are. So anyway, Bloodthirst is 5% ammo regen with a 5-second cooldown is substantial enough, but if you're talking like a Purgatory or a Mass Cane, it doesn't really matter. Movement speed is always nice, and 5 seconds is actually enough to matter. And since it's procced on full reload and not, it's just something you're always doing, this is basically going to be activating constantly. 10% fire rate and 30%, 10% fire rate, 10% reload speed, 3 stacks. This is most of the time just 30% fire rate, 30% reload. After 3 kills, which by the way, this is worded really poorly, and this is going to show up again with a synergy called Hot Streak. It can be any combo of the two. If you get 2 kills and a full reload, that will count to satisfy this condition. Or 1 kill and 2 full reloads, or a full reload and then you get kills. Any combination, it should say and or. I don't know why it just says or. It doesn't work like that at all. Secondly, 20% damage, 10% lifesteal. In this game, life and shield steal is so overpowered with the amount of damage you can do that unless you're getting one shot, you need 0 investment in defense to be immortal in 99.99% of all content in this game, as long as you have some significant form of leeching that's always active. Be it GA, Siphon, this. Any kind of leech, a single source of any leech will make you virtually immortal in virtually all circumstances. So this synergy is 30% fire rate, 30% reload speed, 20% damage, basically immortality most of the time, and a super commonly activating 30% movement speed. Whereas compared to Adaptive Aug, less ammo regen, albeit with no cooldown, 10% fire rate, which is way worse than 30% move speed, half the damage, and the exact same, rate of fire and reload speed effect. This is just worse in every single way, but I digress. It's still good, don't get me wrong. This is still a good synergy. Ether Acceleration, this is arguably the second best synergy in the game for team composition building, and let me explain why. Ammo regen is nice, reload speed is nice, but these two don't matter. What really matters is this. Particle Overload for 15 seconds. Particle Overload increases damage by 2.5%, max stacks 10. So if you're applying this on cooldown, all 4 players benefit from this. So you're getting 7 seconds of 25% damage across 4 players. That is ginormous. That is honestly as big a damage increase as CN is giving, because it's not just giving it to your damage, it's giving it to 4 whole players. And then right here, this rate of fire is also a 10% 10 stack. So 25% rate of fire for yourself, 25% damage for your team, which includes you, 15% reload. So 15% reload, 25% damage times 4, 25% fire rate. This is great. You love to see this. PI is one of those synergies that if you're really thinking about the game in like tactical terms, you can't acknowledge but this being one of the best synergies for a bit of an unintuitive reason, and I'll explain why in a second. It's going to come up again with another synergy. So Just damaging an enemy to get movement speed, wonderful. This will help you kite enemies forever. Reload, always good. Damage, always good. It's the same value I pointed out on CN. These are like the highest values you're going to get for this type of thing. And then you just dodge roll to get 15% life and shield steal, so literal god mode. This is an insane amount. You will never die when this is active. And right here, enemies take an additional 7% damage. So 15% personal damage, 15% reload, like near constant 30% movement speed, 7% damage for the whole team, and this shields and lifesteal. One of the most common things in the game is a thing called guard armament, which I'll explain this in detail in a second. But if you're going to use something like Bloodthirst or PI or Siphon, you will drop this for assault armament, which is 10% rate of fire and damage. With that in mind, since you're always going to go for this combo using this with this, you can actually read this as 10% rate of fire, 30% move speed, 25% damage, 7% team damage, and the lifesteal. And when you look at it like that, it becomes even better. Hot Streak. This is another one of the best synergies. So ammo regen, it's a small amount, but it's nice. On kill or reload, 15% rate of fire, 10 seconds, cooldown 10 seconds. This is active like 70% of anything time you're doing anything. So 15% rate of fire, 15% damage. You already love to see that. And then Hot Streak, again, it's coming up again. Kills or reloads, but it really should be and or. Hot Streak and Blur like effects. So all this is level 1 Hot Streak and level 1 Overcharge, which if you don't know, that's like 20% move speed and 10% damage. So this synergy just reads as 15% rate of fire, 20% move speed, and 25% damage. This is like the last, no, there's a few more to talk about actually. Isotropic Decay, otherwise known as ID. Accuracy and recoil is irrelevant, no one gives a shit. Reload is nice. Crit multi means you really don't want this synergy on an explosive weapon. Excuse me. And damage. Now, remember how I said 15% is the highest values? Well, the whole unique effect of ID is that it's higher than the highest values, slightly, and the synergy is nothing but raw stats. So on something like a mass blaster or a blast rifle, this is quite possibly the second best synergy in the game. Because you love reload, you love crit multi, you love damage. This is still a really good synergy on, say, a mass cannon or a purgatory, but it doesn't even crack the top 5 on those weapons. For the simple fact that they literally cannot benefit from accuracy or recoil because they just always shoot in a straight line and don't have this virtue of being projectiles. And even if they do crit, only the initial projectile crits, which is like 5% of the weapon's total damage. So you're really only gaining half the effect of the synergy. But for every other weapon, this is easily top 3. Quasar Wave is a synergy. This is probably the best synergy that can, the worst synergy that can still make this list. So this dot is not good, but the electric and bio effect is nice. Think CN, but for not health, shields, which is just worse, significantly so, because shields are just not important at all. They hardly ever show up, and when they do show up, they're usually not... You usually just run right through those enemies. Lifesteal, however, insane. So this right here is the big thing. 25% reload speed, 25% rate of fire, 25% damage. If you get this on, say, a Purgatory or a Mass Cannon, where you're breaking, like, 5 plates in a single shot, this is insane. This is absolutely ludicrous. It's everything you want in a synergy. And this right here, you don't care about this at all. It does, like, no damage, and the actual Quasar Wave apply, you just apply it by shooting an enemy, so who gives a fuck? It's always going to be there when you need it. But 25% damage, rate of fire, reload, and lifesteal. I mean, you're going to notice basically all of these top tier synergies give you this exact setup in some way. They give you some combination of damage, reload, fire rate. They give you some combination of leeching or just generally defense, be it damage reduction or leeching. And they usually give you some kind of special effect that increases damage on top of already giving you those similar effects, but not through a special effect. Okay, now I want to talk about the only 2 backpack synergies that honestly matter, because people will use the other ones, but they're just not as good as these 2. So Guard Armament is a generic throw this on and never die. You don't care about the nano resistance at all. You don't care about this at all. This is garbage. 5 seconds uptime, 15-second downtime, terrible. You cannot rely on this. Nano resistance, dog shit. Outside of PvP, this shit will never matter. Reload, this is really nice. Life and shield steal, this is why you're using it right here. This is the only reason you'd rather really use this. So just by having a weapon equipped that you aren't using and your shield, you're benefiting from this. So you pick one weapon, usually a CN weapon, then you pick one backpack set, usually GA, and you use this for immortality while you focus on something like this for maximum DPS. But let's say you want to use something like this, or you want to put Siphon on your gun. Well, Siphon, or Bloodthirst, or PI, or any of that shit, is already giving you equal or greater leeching than GA. And when your weapons are doing, like, over 1 million DPS, like T6 endgame weapons will do, then 10% of 1 million is 100,000. If you're doing 1 million per second, you're leeching 100,000 per second. That is like more than double the highest possible cap. So having like Siphon and GA is objectively a waste of your potential like power. So that's why you'll sometimes see people run this instead of GA. This is the last really good synergy to talk about. This is not good because dodge rolling isn't really good and the uptime's not high enough to justify the initial dodge roll. But this is usable. It will help you sometimes, unlike the 10% damage reduction, which helps you never because you have to get hit. Then you have 5 seconds to get hit again to just take 1/10 less damage, which is terrible. Whereas with this, you try to roll out of the way of an attack and the movement speed might help you dodge the follow-up attack. Somewhat useful. Nano proc chance is extremely nice because you actually care. If you're using a nano on your weapon, you always want the nano to proc. So the more it procs, the better for you. Rate of fire is just generically good. And as you saw, 10% rate of fire and 10% damage on most of the synergies in this game, these would just straight up be 2 parts of the synergy. So this is basically adding 3 extra parts of a synergy to a weapon. So imagine like cleansing napalm, but it shoots 10% faster, 10% damage proc chance. So basically you would just be lifting this, dropping it on here. If you're using this weapon but with Siphon, for example, because that way you still cover the defense through leeching. Okay, that's just a really quick breakdown of all the shit that actually matters. Every other synergy in the game is in some way, shape, or form worse than the ones listed here. People will tell you they like them or they use it for this reason, that reason, whatever. That's cool. People can have their opinions. But these are the synergies people like really are looking for.